There's a lot going on in our town this week for those of you who are watching from afar. So we are very excited to be here, and I've renamed today's panel thanks to some good commentary by my brother. We have Men of Metal. We might start our own calendar. So yeah, we've often wanted to do a Men of the Tent calendar, and we could start right here. So here we are. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce. I guess I'm in the wrong place. I should be over there. But Ryan Schmidt, our stainless steel master.
Hello.
From Fountain Hills, Arizona, right now, and Parker McDonald from beautiful Colorado.
Hi.
And Carlos Page from Cave Creek, Arizona, by way of Argentina, and New York and San Francisco.
No, I am. Perfect. Hello.
You have to kind of give it a little extra love. So, okay, I see we have Chiefs fans and a Raiders fan. Okay. So even though the Raiders aren't playing, we'll still give you that shout out. So anyway, you guys are in the best place in town right now. It's beautiful, lovely, and filled with magical art. And this is the place to be. So thank you for being here. Ryan, I'm going to start with you and have you tell them a little bit about you and how long you've been doing what you've been doing and how long you've been in the show.
Okay. Well, how do you guys do? I've been working in stainless for about 20 years. I started in painting, went through photography, ceramics, printmaking, got into bronze, and then moved into stainless. But my fourth year here at the show, and moved here a little over 3 years ago now, basically for this show. So, gosh, what else did you?
I think that's a good start. And
Okay.
then the next question, just for you guys to get ready, is going to be why metal? So think about that. I'll give you a minute to prepare for that. So Parker, tell them a little. Turn up the. Okay. Is this better? Okay, and all of us will remember to hold our microphone like an ice cream cone. That's the rules. Yeah. Yep. It's very directional. So Parker, tell us how long you've been doing your metal and why, and how long you've been in the show.
This is my first year at the show. I've been working with a welder in metal for about 20 years, like Ryan. I've been doing art since before I can remember, but with metal for 20 years.
That's a good long time.
Well, this is the bottom is good.
Yeah.
It's not too much.
It's good.
This is my 12th season at the show, and I've been working with steel more precisely for about 25 years. And my fascination with material, if you want to talk about that, started early in high school. I went to a technical school, and we had a metal shop and other shops, but the metal is the only one I remember, and that really enchanted me. And so at some point, a few years later, I had the opportunity to come to the States to apprentice with an Argentinian sculptor in San Francisco, and that was a life-changing event. I learned firsthand how to, I was working with a professional artist, and that was an incredible, priceless experience. And after my stint there, I went to school in New York, and there I started creating my own body work and showing around the city, and then started selling, and that gave me the confidence to, upon graduation, give this vocation a chance, and rent a studio in Hoboken, New Jersey, which I kept until from 2001 until 2014, which that was already a couple of seasons after I started doing the celebration show, and I decided to move here to Cave Creek. So I'm here full time.
Yay! It's not about that.
Thank you.
Do you want to tell them a little bit about some of the tools that you use?
Sure. Well, my approach to steel, and I talk about steel in particular because it's the only metal that I really have worked with. It's very basic, if you will. My studio, I'm not a tool guy, so I have very few things that I use a lot. An anvil, a few torches, hammers. Basic, I have a couple of welding machines. I mostly use the traditional stick welding, one that kind of out of fashion, but it produces things. It works in ways that are unique, and so I love using it. And then some power tools like hand, hand grinders, and that's pretty much the shop, my shop for you. It's like not really involved, but I do a lot with what I use, and I love it that way. I think going back to your question about why metal or why steel is we have kind of built our civilization with it. More forcefully starting up with the Industrial Revolution, but even before, steel was a critical material in our experience. We built our cities, our roads, our vehicles. So it's been incredibly useful to us, and I find it in nature, but then we transform it into, and add our knowledge and create all these things that we are surrounded with. So it's a very noble material. It's like it's rigid and solid, and you can count on it. But then again, when you heat it up, it becomes malleable, and you can create beautiful forms with it. So it's kind of magical in a way.
Well, and the key thing to take away is you do really old school techniques. You are not using plasma cutters or anything. You're using the torch, the anvil, your hands.
Yeah, it's I keep it there purposely because it keeps me close to it, and because I don't know how to manage more technological or complicated machines.
The trick comes out, yeah. I gotcha.
But no, it does a trick to me. I get what I want with it, with what I use, and so I haven't had a need to really call. And I guess I'm working in a scale that allows me to use those tools. And going in a larger scale, sometimes you have to get in, all that stuff involved. But it's all good. I'm a happy guy with it.
Yay! Thank you. And we'll draw some more out of you in a little bit. But Parker, let's talk about how you came to work with this medium and what you use. And you actually both of you have spaces here where you're doing work, and you do too, out in the North 40. So we'll talk about that. But let's tell them a little bit about some of your techniques and your tools.
So why metal? About 20 years ago, I was doing a lot of art, painting a lot of murals, and was living in a little town in Minnesota. And a municipal group came to me and asked, they had some funds available, and asked what I could do with that. They wanted something down by the community center. And short of a big foundry bill, I said, well, it was on the Mississippi River and had become known for the trumpeter swans that lived in town. So I said, well, I'll just build some 20-foot stainless steel trumpeter swans. And they said, great. And I went home and was excited, told my wife that I was going to build these swans, and she said, well, you don't know how to weld. And I thought, so? So I bought some tools, and that's how it started.
My kind of guy.
I found a niche that worked well, and been doing it ever since.
Okay. Are the swans still there?
They are.
All right. How fun is it to go back and visit that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're on the website. They're there. Tools-wise, pretty much the same things that Carlos talked about, except I do have a plasma cutter and I use a MIG welder mostly. I love tools, love my shop.
What's the difference between a TIG and a MIG welder?
How the wire gets fed in. My MIG is a wire feed welder.
Did anybody else already know that? A couple of you? Okay.
TIG is much more precise. I'll bet you use a TIG.
Jake has both of them. I just don't know what they do.
Yeah, I'm moving fast and organic and hot and just letting it go.
Okay. So talk about
How you put this one together.
Cut, hammer, weld. That's kind of my thing. You're just cutting, shaping it, hammer it around, and weld it into place. That's really it.
Had you done a Roadrunner before you came to Arizona?
No.
Yeah. See? Inspired by our surroundings? You created this since you've been here.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what inspires me? I figured that would come up. There's really two things. One is an innate need to make things with my hands, right? Since I'm 2 years old, since before I could remember. So my shop and my tools and needing to make things, and then wildlife is the second part. They're both just innate parts of me that come together with what I do.
Very good. Very good. And I love the birds. I love how you get the movement. We might talk a little bit more about that in a little bit, but how you get all the different versions of the flight. So, okay, Mr. Schmidt.
Howdy.
Howdy. So, you're the crazy guy who does giant stainless steel, including the hanging piece in the foyer, which he actually goes every once in a while and twirls it around and it can rotate. So
I think Doug could probably give us a whirl on that. He knows how it's done.
Go spin it.
Go give the spin. Yeah.
yay, Doug!
All right, everybody give Doug an applause, please.
He's awesome. So, just why metal? Why steel? Why stainless?
Well, a little bit of background. I grew up working with my dad building playgrounds, and in the playground world, he started out manufacturing, selling, and installing our own line of.
Who needs one
Awesome.
of those
Thank
right
you,
now?
Doug.
We can install it tonight.
Awesome. So I worked a lot with wood in the beginning, and we hand bent our own handles and appendages and climbers to go off the playgrounds, and so I, ever since I was old enough to, help Dad, basically I was hands-on with wood, metal, plastic for the slide work, landscaping, safety, prep, surfacing for playgrounds, site prep, drainage, all the retaining walls and whatnot. So coming out of high school, I was painting, and I knew art. I just didn't know what angle. So I studied a lot of different things. But once I got into some of the cast work, I did some in bronze. I did some in aluminum, and this aluminum cast piece that I did, every time it fell over, it broke. Trying to weld aluminum, it's a conductor, so the whole piece heats up. The whole piece heats up until right what you're welding on falls out, for aluminum. So I got very frustrated with that, and also wanted to hold a polish outside. And so coming out of college, I got incorporated back in 2002 doing landscape sculptures of water fountains, and the stainless was the application for me because it's pretty much low maintenance and it'll withstand a lot of the elements outside. So and I wanted the reflective quality. So that for me, that pop and that visual as you're walking around the piece, or the reflections that are in the twisted environment, kind of is fun to play with on video and photography. So.
It's like the ellipse in Chicago that everybody takes their picture under.
The beam in Chicago.
It's called the ellipse, but we call it the beam.
Oh,
I think it's
Cloudgate.
Cloudgate.
Cloudgate by Anish Kapoor. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. Don't listen to me.
There might be an ellipse. There might be an ellipse.
But it is called cloud gate. But it looks like a bean. So, how many people have taken their picture there?
There you go. Yep. So that was installed in 2006, and before I actually got into stainless, I had visited the St. Louis Arch, the Gateway Jefferson Memorial, and so that was watching the videos and at the time, this was pre 9/11. They let me go into one of the legs and see how the interior was made, and there's a lot of history that that piece made, and it was significant, I guess, kind of with the triangular form, and that's how most of the work that I do now is in the triangular form on the curve. So, and where I'm taking two cutouts using a 4.5-inch grinder, and I'm tack welding the inside of this curve together, and then I'm putting tension between the points to open it to a triangular form, and then I'll wrap this third piece around the back.
So you start with just long sheets of metal.
Yes.
How thick?
10 and 11 gauge, so around 1/8 of an inch thick.
And then do you sketch on it?
Yeah, I do some sketching, and then I do a lot of, also do some clay work. So I'll make a piece free-form in clay without a sketch, and then the mold, the lost wax process to produce clay and the wax, and then the cast.
Casting. So you do some cast pieces and some that are just one off. And what does this look like before it's shined?
Well, it's called a 2B finish, the way it comes from the mill, and it's not far from the surface of this table here. It's kind of just a matte sheen.
Or the wine table, as people might
Right.
reference
There
it.
you go.
So, how does it get shiny?
Oh, that's a big process. I probably spent 25% of the time on the piece is actually fabricating and building, and 75% of the time is in the polish. And it's about 15 steps of auto body, sandpaper finishing, lots of orbital and direction, stepping out the sandpaper from 80 grit to 150, 220, 320, 400, 600, 800, 1,000, 1,500, and then rouges and cotton wheels set there, 3 or 4 steps for the polish, and that's really quite evasive. It's a lot of mess to get through that. But it has this striking pop,
Yes.
So I mean it's worth it in my opinion.
Agreed. I mean, what
I
I
hate to finish.
Well, I was going to say, what I like about each of you is we're seeing a completely different end result of the same basic material by 3 fabulous different artists. And that's what I love about art, is it's all in, the creation of the artist and how they see life. And
Some good
very
contrast.
shiny.
Yeah.
You're very shiny, and you're more
So
gritty.
this is a Core 10 steel, which is a weathering steel. It's made to be outside. It's engineered for that, and will be there forever, like stainless, except it gets a rusty patina.
And do you put a polish over the, or do you put something to protect it, or you leave it bare?
No, it's just, that's just raw Core 10. That's what it does.
And then do you also do castings of some of your work, is that true?
Some of the really little stuff, like the birds, I'm casting some of the beginning parts, the body and the head, just because they're so small and so repetitious, and then finish them out. So they're still all one-of-a-kind things, but I am casting some parts,
And then Carlos, everything that you make is a one of a kind, even if you maybe make a similar, like your tree. Like talk
Yes.
a little bit about your trees. One of which is behind you, and some of the different things that you have made.
Well, my trees, it's kind of one of the most figurative pieces of what I make. My work is mostly abstract, sort of shapes and forms, but with my trees, it's kind of an urban tree. This goes back to my background growing up in Buenos Aires and New York and the big cities, and my love of architecture and engineering and nature, and this is kind of a blend of it all. So I use plain old steel. I use I texture the steel in different ways with torch mostly in this case, and then I use patinas to color the steel in different ways. Kind of etch the steel, but unlike a paint, the patinas have a translucent quality, so you can see through. I can see all the grinding and the work done underneath. I work with old steel as well, but my work since I moved to Arizona has changed in that I used to go into Pennsylvania and places around New York collecting old steel because weather by the elements and with the humidity, the extreme weather conditions kind of do work on the steel and create like a texture that are beautiful. And basically, while I can create textures on my own, and I do, most as a consequence of not being able to access that kind of steel anymore out here in the West, where that doesn't happen. Nature does best. So in this case, it's all nude steel texture, mostly with torch and grinders. And my trees again is like a body of work where I kind of attempt to bring nature into what is otherwise kind of like a completely abstract work.
One of the things that so many of our collectors appreciate about your work is it really can work with a very wide range of decor styles. I mean, I've seen your work go into super contemporary homes. I've seen it go into very traditional, even Western, the wide spectrum. And some of your installations have been pretty amazing.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's something for me that I discovered as well. Because of the weight and the size of my work, I get the opportunity to deliver and install a lot of it. And it's always surprising to see where it's placed and where people pick my work to live with. And indeed, it's something that happened to me when I was in New York. Everybody kind of commented on the urban quality of my work. Then I came out here and I did a lot of business in Chicago for many years. And Chicago is a contemporary city, loved of strong materials and clean design, and my work did well there too. And then I come here and with the Southwest aesthetics, it seems to blend as well. So I'm quite happy about all of that. Needless to say, but I think it has to do with the kind of organic nature of what I do. It's a modern work, contemporary, but it has a rusticity to it due to the fact not only the steel work that you see here, steel and concrete in this case, but also when I incorporate the wood, which is I use quite a bit in my compositions.
And all of those have such great texture that plays with each other very well.
It's kind of very tactile work. It's like it invites to come close and take a closer look and touch. I love that. It's part of what makes it fascinating to me as well.
And you have also very functional tables and benches and so forth that you do as well as a freestanding sculpture?
I do. Not so much these days, but I'll be showing here in another week or so. I will be setting up a work area behind my booth where I will be doing some portion of legs for my furniture. So you're all welcome to stop by at the corner of the tent over there.
Yeah, we have to keep him way back in the corner. Keep him out of trouble. So, okay, so tell us about some, like the largest installation you've done, like, and where some of your artists.
Okay, well, the largest one that I did was cut from 20-foot by 8-foot sheets of stainless, 3/16 of an inch thick. They weighed about 5,000 pounds a sheet, and so they were. There was this giant suction cup apparatus with these big suction discs that would pick up this sheet across a framework, and you could handle this piece without bending it or kinking it or damaging it of some sorts. But I had a large shop assist me with this back in Arkansas, and they had the big overhead 40-ton cranes, and it was a big deal. But it was an arch support system to hold an 8-foot version of the suspended piece called Rain of Faith. This piece here. So, and we did a big pool underneath. It was lit up at night, so the reflection of the light coming from the water and the surface played into a lot of the like a theatrical event. It's pretty cool.
You are theatrical. It's very good. Yeah.
I didn't ride the bicycle in today.
One of the first year Ryan was in the show, it was right after the movie The Greatest Showman. Did anybody see that? About the P.T. Barnum? Love that movie. And I'm jamming to my soundtrack from the movie, and I come down the road, and here he is riding. What do you call that?
It's a penny farthing high wheel. So it's a big front wheel and then a little bitty one in the back.
And I'm having like this circus thing in my head going, we just found The Greatest Showman.
So I've ridden it through the show a couple of times, and it's a little uneasy for some people.
And his wife Janice is like patient as all get out to live with this guy. I won't ask you how you clean up anymore, because that one time you talked about coming home all dirty from grinding stuff.
Yeah, full of metal dust. Yeah, it gets in the truck. It's a bad deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fully suited up with leathers and respirator and safety equipment, of course.
Yeah. Safety
Safety first.
Yeah. So you currently have a container on the north lot. I haven't been out there to see you working, but I've seen you work before in other.
I'm just getting wired in, so I'm wiring in the welder next, and I'm getting to work. So I'm just getting it all dialed in, actually. So
yeah. Well, there's a lot of equipment, but even though there's equipment involved, it's all the handwork is really, really key and really important in the design.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'm trying to picture, this is a 16-foot span, so you had a 20-foot wide piece of sheet metal.
And 8 feet tall.
And 8 feet tall. That's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And where does then you have one at the governor's mansion?
That's the piece that's at the governor's mansion in Arkansas, in my hometown. So.
Yay for you.
Woohoo.
Okay, so what would be your dream project to do right now?
Keep going bigger. Yeah, the idea is monumental. Get into, St. Louis art size would be cool. Yeah, but that's 600 feet tall.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll start a little lower than that.
Did I give you that video that I got for you when we were there?
Yes, you did.
Okay. Yeah, that is bad. How many of you have toured the St. Louis Arch? Yeah, that's awesome. And by the way, if my mother-in-law is watching, happy birthday. There's a big birthday party tomorrow for her that I'm not there, but my husband is in St. Louis. So
Happy
yay.
birthday!
Happy birthday, Anna Marie!
Happy birthday, Anna Marie!
So, but the arch, as you mentioned earlier, really kind of inspired your intrigue with the form and the structure. What is it about the triangle that makes that so stable?
It's welded in place.
How about the mathematic?
Well,
the fact that they met in the middle.
The arch is it's pretty interesting. If you know the history about it, they actually dug down 60 feet below grade to anchor in these giant rods that were attached into the bottom of the lakes, and they pulled all this tension into it. And so I understood about the tension early on, about how that to some degree plays into the structural part if it's got some tension pulling on the in the curve itself. And so nobody really showed me anything with this process of the stretching. It was something I figured out of how to come across the triangular form from two flat pieces. And it's kind of a learned situation, but it's been fun.
And then what's the smallest piece you've done?
Oh, some little bitty things.
The little heart?
There's a little heart, yeah.
And then that is a cast piece?
That's cast, yeah.
And what makes you decide whether to cast or just do
Well, there's
a weld?
really there's two complete different forms and two different looks. So actually, forgot to mention, age of 5, I started messing with origami. and that kind of got me into the understanding of how to mess with 2D, planes, and the fabrication side. So it helped a lot.
Do you still do that?
I do.
Okay, that's very good. Do you know Kevin Box?
I know Kevin Box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, rock, paper, scissors. Kevin Box is a sculptor who does a lot of origami stuff, and he's been in quite a few botanical gardens.
He came to Arkansas and showed with us at the River Market Sculpture Show quite a few years ago. So.
He lives over by Terrell Powell now in Santa Fe. So, okay, Parker, I wanted to learn a little bit more about. You talked about your two loves, metal and wildlife. Do you ever do anything more abstract, or is wildlife primarily what you want to write?
I like to mix the two sometimes. There's always wildlife involved, like a bird sitting on some abstract sculpture. One of Gideon's pieces the other day, when I was sitting in the courtyard, the grackles came and perched on there. And I pointed out to my wife, that's pretty much what I do. If you had an abstract sculpture in your backyard, the birds would come perch right on top of it. So I like mixing those. It gives me, I like contrast. So I can contrast two types of art together, or two textures together. Like this has some stainless, and then the rest is bronze.
What about the eyes?
The small little birds have actually a glass bead as an eye.
No wonder they look so shiny.
Yeah, when they get bigger, they handle that a little differently. But
What's the biggest piece you've ever done?
I did a 18 to 20 foot blue heron that's in a park in Minnesota. I did a twice life-size bull elk that ended up being about 14 feet tall.
Wow, how many hours of welding would that take?
I hate that question.
Yeah. Never mind.
A lot.
You don't want to think about that.
Right.
And we have a beautiful bison bust out in the courtyard that some of you can probably see if you look right out there. And what else do we have out there? Hawk or eagle?
What about it?
What else is in the courtyard?
The hawk got hauled inside. It's in by my booth now. The bison I set up my phone, and I have a time lapse of that one going together. I need to edit that a little bit and get it on my website because it's pretty fun to watch.
Maybe we could share that.
Yeah.
Share it with us, and we'll post it on our site as well. Cool. And Carlos, we talked about some of your installations. You also do a lot of commission work, custom pieces for people, and you have that combination with the concrete and the metal and the wood. And again, we talked about the textures and how they kind of play with each other, but you're able to work with people in different scale if they have a specific space. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I do commission work, and I work with people in basically they come to me liking what I do, but with a specific place in their homes or what they think what I do could work, and then we come up with pieces for those places, and I do. So it's a great experience, and I think it's a win-win for everybody, and people get their input, and I get to do the commission. So it's totally, that's some part of what we do every day here, and then most of my work is for indoors, but I do have pieces for outdoors. I just haven't put them together this year in time for the show, but hopefully I can bring a few before it's all over.
I hope so. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Got that big blank wall on the other side of facing Hayden Road, waiting for a piece to hang.
Incredible, yeah.
No pressure. No pressure though. It's my job to give you all a hard time. So one of the things you had one of our collectors who had purchased a few of your pieces, you ended up doing a one-of-a-kind, never-to-be-done again railing because it was the last of your reclaimed wood, right?
The railing?
The railing? Was that?
Yes, that was a very special wood that I had, and yeah, but you know, there's a limit to the extent of things, the range of things I will do. It's just
That was pushing the limits, right? But it was so cool, and
Yeah.
it complemented the rest of the installation.
yeah, this client of the show came, they bought a sculpture from me, and then he wanted to do a handwriting for the stairs for a home in Montana, and I got to deliver the work, and it was a beautiful home, and everything turned out well, and I got to spend a few extra days doing some water rafting, which was awesome.
Great. See the perks of the business when you deliver art. Yeah. And all of you also do commission work for people that are interested in having something specific sculpted?
Yeah. The Big Elk was a commission piece for a guy in Wyoming, and so sure.
Okay. And I know you do.
About half my work is commission work.
And you have a lot of commercial potential installations as well.
Yeah, some corporate stuff, and public stuff, and of course some high-end residential.
All right. I'd love to know if anybody else has questions, because I know some of you always have way better questions than I do. Mr. Jackson.
Do any of you have pieces in museums?
Do any of you have pieces currently in museums?
No.
Well, I've been showing with the Ford Museum, the Gerald R. Ford Museum, for Art Prize competition in Grand Rapids. So I've been with them for about 4 years in a row with a big installation. There's been a lot of good attention.
Just to follow up, is it in your goals or your vision to be?
Is it part of your goal
Sure.
or vision to be? Yeah.
It's certainly a good piece of the concept.
Specifically a goal, I'm not really thinking about that. I'm super thankful for the fact that I can make a living doing something I love to do, and that's plenty already for me. And the fact that that's what I do, you know, I've been doing it for this long, and the outlook is bright ahead. So if it comes, I hope it comes during my lifetime. That's a good goal. Nice, you know, it's a really nice development, but it's not something I lose any sleep about.
Yeah. We do have a number of our artists who are in museums and public exhibits. Yeah. That's a good question. Ned, I know you always have something good to ask. Nothing today?
Well, I think it's kind of a.
Don't be too challenging, though.
Susan and I know each other too well. I always, again, ask for the question, even before I came here, when I looked up this particular session online, I said, I'm really going to be interested in this because I know absolutely nothing about metal art and the original name for it that you had. And so, I looked at it particularly with Carlos on the left and over here in the stainless steel, you know, the inspiration behind it. You know, what are you, you know, you have to create a new piece. Now, not a commission piece, but something that's in your own head that you want to create. And even Ms. Parker in the middle, you know, with wildlife. You know, what triggers you to say, okay, I've done this and I can replicate that to a certain extent, but I want to venture into a different area and create something a little bit different. By the way, I noticed that thing was going for a long period of time, so that's well balanced, I must say that.
It's on a bearing.
Yeah, it's on a bearing, yeah, because that thing was going for about 5 minutes or more up there. But again, the inspiration question, to move from what you've been doing for a period of time that's been successful and thinking about, well, what's going to be the next generation of my art?
Yeah, or an extension, or I don't know, I like the idea of twisting into something a little bit new. For me, I've got some color coming up soon, which I'll do a translucent clear coat on there, so it'll be a red chrome or a blue chrome. So color's coming next for me. But the cast work for me, that's kind of those are unlimited possibilities in you know as far as form is concerned. So they can just do so much more with that than than what I can do trying to stretch the metal. I'm kind of limited to a certain point, but it will be fun to continue that direction with larger pieces that are cast. So.
Like what inspired this?
Well, fluid movements. A lot of times I'm sketching just from a flat 2D plane, so I don't really know how that's going to change until I get into the build on the piece. So sometimes it'll transition into a little bit further than what I expected, and maybe I'll go back and resketch it so that it's different proportion. But it's the fluidity for me. The movement is important when I'm coming up with something new or sketching.
And what about inspiration for you, Carlos?
For me, I was thinking about your question. It's like, to me, what drives me to work every day is not so much the desire to come up with something new all the time, but it's more like a meditation. So I go, and it's a meditation that evolves. It's a slower process. It's not, that's what motivates me and keeps me going. It's an idea of that you develop a certain space of your own and just go with it. To me, it has to do a lot with the physical part of it. Still is involving metal for all of us. The physical involving. So you have to concentrate this focus to it, which like painters or potters or anybody, jewelers, everybody else, they get to the same place in their own. But for me, it's attention and then in terms of my output, I just let it flow. Again, the quest is not to come up with something different. The work changes on its own more than I determine my work is going to change. And that starts out in a good place because I'm going to work every day makes me happy. It's a place of inspiration. It's kind of inexplicable, but it just happened to me in this particular line of work, and so I think the change is a consequence and not a goal.
Very good. And I love that you're happy you get to go to work every day. That makes me happy.
Yeah.
Parker. And I think I've observed each of the guys I've known for a few years, you are, whether you consciously think about it or not, you are inspired by the environment that you're in and how your work has changed since you moved out here. You're seeing that more of that open feel. So whether you're now or aware of it or not, I think you have been inspired by your surroundings, just like you were talking about seeing the grackles on Gideon sculpture. So what inspires you?
I think I go on these tangents. I'll have a little idea. At some point in my past, I wondered if I could weld stainless to carbon steel or to Corten. And so you experiment with that a little bit, and you play with it, and you figure out, I can do that. And then that leads on a whole different tangent and opens up a whole new realm of new ideas, and then that tangents off into something else. And so I always find myself experimenting with techniques or new tools or ideas, and they always lead somewhere.
That's so great. I just read a question this morning that's like, what have you done before that you didn't think you could do, and then how did you feel after you did that? I think it's like, I think anything in life, but certainly in artistry, it's going to that next level as you master one level. So,
and it's the fulfillment, basically. So, yeah.
I think for all of us, you just got to not be afraid to try stuff. I mean, everybody in these tents, I think, is just somebody who's not afraid to try. And I always say I've never done anything until the first time.
Gotta start somewhere, right? Yeah, that's. Look at that. I've never done anything until the first time. Yeah, cool. Overcoming obstacles is really what life is all about, growing and evolving. So, very well done, guys. And it's interesting. I was talking with Michael McRae, who's one of our fabulous jewelers, and I'm like, oh, you could have been on that panel too, because again, they're taking metals and manipulating them into different shapes and styles, and using their same tools but much smaller probably in that. But I think for me, what's really fascinating in this process is you can get a little bit of behind the scenes glimpse at what they do. It's hard to watch, full on. You do have your protective shade, but to watch them with their welders and to see Ryan cut the sheet metal, it's just a fascinating process that most of us never think about. Like most of the time in life, we never imagine what goes into making something. So that experience that we hope to provide here for all of you guys is what makes us have fun up here. So do we have any other questions? Kathy?
So Parker, when you had to start the huge blue herons for the first time, how did you start it? I mean, you didn't know anything about it. How did you start that?
Well, there was something that came before, so it wasn't as big as that, but I had done something similar before. And then you just start with a sketchbook and some ideas, and for me, I just start going. You just grab some metal and start cutting.
But your very first one, when you said, I'll do that,
Yeah.
and you had never done it before.
No.
How many tries did it take?
I mean, you read a little bit about how to weld, and I say, okay, let's try that. And you just do it, and you learn as you go.
Fail forward occasionally, right? That's how we grow.
That's impressive.
You have some extra time because you have some extra time in your hands. You started playing with material you found around your place, or I guess really like first material you started playing with, where it came from.
You just go. I mean, you just the base for.
For example, when I started in New York at school, the first few pieces I made with materials that were already in the metal shop.
Oh.
And I kind of used those first. I wonder, when you started working with steel, the first few pieces you went out and bought some materials.
Yeah, I went and bought a welder and a plasma cutter, and we go to the steel store, and the first piece, the big swans I built in my garage. And then
The steel store. Just go to the steel store.
there's steel stores,
I know, because Jake goes to him. He makes a lot of stuff people don't know about, by the way.
Yeah, he's a pretty handy guy.
Yep. The steel. We have lots of industrial metal, I think it's called here. You go there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But Jake's run into Carlos there before, hasn't he?
I'm there often.
Yeah. So I love this can-do attitude. Well, I'll figure it out, right? That's what creation, that's what inventions and creativity are all about. So awesome.
I mean, the whole tent's full of that.
Yeah.
There's every material, everything, and they all started somewhere and just try. You just try.
There's one of my favorite phrases is "stay curious," and I think that is why we're all here today, because we're curious to learn about this. But some people are curiouser, and they don't ask; they just go figure it out and do it. Right? Pretty much.
That's the adventure.
Yeah. But yeah, this place is full of adventure for sure. So good question. Thank you. Do you have another one, Wendy? Okay.
It's not so much a question as experiencing it for myself. Don't be scared. If you see something you're interested in, and you bloody well get into it and find a way.
There you go.
Okay, so Carlos, this has wood in it, or?
This is steel, and then this is concrete.
Okay.
Concrete.
Because if it was all steel, it would be so heavy, right?
It has weight. Yeah, it's part of the. One thing about my work is that I don't use nails or screws. Everything comes together. So the whole thing is one piece and it's unbreakable. The concrete, in this case, I didn't use any pigment, but I often do. So I get colors in the concrete from using pigments. But the part of like you can put this piece outside and it won't be tipped off. It won't be tipped over by even the strongest wind. So there's a solidity to it that comes with its weight. Yeah, but hopefully this, we're able to get some, grace as well.
I was thinking about the museum question earlier. The executive director, Ken Schultz from the Desert Botanical Garden, has been interested in those. We have to get him back in here because he thought those would be a great addition to the Desert Botanical Garden. Yeah. Do you agree?
Yeah. My sense is, that's right. My sense is all of these, in terms of the creativity or the workmanship and the creativity, would do well in a museum setting just because of the uniqueness. I mean, that's my sense.
What he's saying is all of these would do well in a museum setting, and I agree. And I don't know if Frank is here, but Frank Reshapo, we call him Father Frank, but he made a really good comment one time that we have the MIM, which is the Musical Instrument Museum, and that we should be the MAM, which is the Morrow Art Museum, named after my dad. So this is essentially a seasonal museum that that you can buy. But I mean, when we travel, we love to go to museums, and there's some very interesting random museums around the country. We stopped at one in Montana that was just all kinds of crazy stuff, but always check out the museums when you travel. But we do feel like the art here could hold up pretty well in almost any museum setting.
There's a lot of quality art here. So.
Thank you. So, and it is fun. We love doing this and having the dialogue and the conversation, and we're grateful that we do have a lot of you who come and bring your questions to us every week, because it's all about just exploring a little bit deeper. You can go around and talk with these guys any day of the week, but the panels, sometimes we get a little bit more out of it and walk away with something new that we've learned, and a different way of looking at things as well. I mean, it helps us to open our eyes to see the world through the eyes of an artist. I'm going to hand this to you. It helps the people listening online.
I noticed that all you guys have all your digits, and I don't see like a lot of scar tissue, and I'm just really curious because what you do sounds really dangerous. So, have you had injuries, or did you all know what you were doing from the get-go and were like super careful? Say third.
I'd say that probably, I'm going to speak for all of us, but it was certainly in my case, all the issues happen early, and all at once, kind of like that. So you learn quick, or you have to move to a different field of business. Cuts, bruises, all of those things happen when you're learning to work with the tools. Then you pay more attention to make sure that it doesn't happen again. So it's like, and I don't know, the only thing that continues to happen, but I think we've become like a little insensitive to it, is like the burning, because it's always
But you do all wear protective equipment, gloves, and
I'm fully suited up, boots, pants, a leather apron. When it's cold out, this composite jacket that's fireproof, and then of course respirator, double P95, and got a face shield, and a welding hat so you don't burn your hair.
You take it to extreme.
Well,
Getting set on fire is not fun.
And I every once in a while, you're I say it once in a while, but quite quickly your gloves can get a hole in them. So immediately when that happens, I got to get a new pair. So that way you don't think that you're protected.
We are glad that Ryan is still here with us, though.
Yeah.
There was an accident that was only semi-related to. You weren't actually.
Well, I wasn't actually working on sculpture, but I was shelving a bunch of stuff onto this 13-foot shelf, and so my head was about pushing 20 feet tall, and standing up tall, turned around and stepped onto the forklift where I had some melamine coated boards, which is the plastic coated boards, and zero friction on the metal fork. So I stepped on it, and it slid off the side, and I had nothing to grab onto. So about 15 feet up, I was head first down to the concrete, broke my face, my orbital, both wrists, both elbows, 2 ribs, and 7 pieces on my spine. That was 2 years ago.
Did the board land right here too after you fell?
Yeah, I had a little bitty cut on my nose. That's the only blood. It's really strange, but and nothing was operative, by the way. So they kicked me out the hospital the next day.
So that with Kenny was there, Jake was next door, because you had hangers next to each other, and it was like. I'm lucky to be here.
Yeah. Put it that way.
Seriously. So we're grateful. Good question, but we're happy you're here, and so is Janice. Yeah. So it is important to be mindful about what you're doing and mind the gap, I guess, is what
Not only the tools and the heat and stuff, but this stuff's heavy. And so you have to have forklifts and cranes and that.
If it goes to fall, you just let it go.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Get
what
out
we
the
always
way.
say.
Don't try to catch it.
When we're filling the courtyard up, Doug is frequently the forklift operator, and especially the glass pieces out there. It was like Seth said, if it starts to go, just get out of the way. Nobody try to catch it, because it's a million little pieces of glass. So, yeah.
So early on, in the early 2000s, my dad got me an 18-ton cherry picker crane, 4 big tires, and the idea was to build some big sculpture, but I didn't get to the big pieces until later. So I used it for a swing. So we'd drop an 80 feet of chain down to a trapeze, and we'd jump off the side of buildings and go swinging across from the crane. So that, but that's in and out of the work zone. We got to play too. So.
Well, not everybody grows up with their dad building playground. So I mean, that's kind of an ideal life, right? To go help your dad play.
Yeah, I was testing the equipment. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that goes along with the staying curious and not being afraid. It's just, you do what you have to do, and learn from your mistakes. And even like when, I think when you and Jake were drilling to put your big lift thing in, I accidentally touched the tool, the power tool. It was blazing hot. I was like, well, that was foolish. So, being aware always helps. So, yes, Wendy.
I'm curious because these are beautiful sculptures, and I know a lot of sculptures you do already. They're quite unique. But what my question is how do you choose your bases, and what materials do you use, and is there anything strange that your commission people have for where they want them placed and what you use for your base?
Well, I like to use something that's heavy so that pieces stand upright. So I use a lot of stone or granite, and I've also done a lot of stainless bases with ballast of concrete inside. So, for instance, there's a 15-footer down in Miami, and it withstood Irma, 4,000 pounds of ballast in the base. It ripped the face off the building that it was in front of, and they spent millions to fix it back up, but the piece withstood the Irma.
Yeah, that's great. And you do, sometimes you'll do like this is a granite base or limestone?
Just a natural stone.
Yeah.
And so I like to hunt through the stone yards, and I'll hand select out a few that I may not have a sculpture for yet, or unless I'm specifically looking for a certain size piece sometimes. But it's always fun to go to yards and get different colors or different shapes, and try not to find something square. I'm looking for an organic, look.
How's it stuck on there? Super glue?
Well, no, I'll drill core a hole through the stone, and I'm welding a post onto the bottom of the sculpture, so it's and then epoxied, of course, for permanent situation. So, yeah.
Well, I use mostly steel for the base of my sculptures. Yeah, so it's kind of continuity of the material. But sometimes I do use wood, and but actually most of the work I'm doing these days is are wall pieces. So I don't have to deal with the base. But whenever I use bases, it's mostly either steel or wood. And basically I weld everything together to the rest of the piece to become part of it.
Yeah, usually steel or stone. If it's steel, then you're just welding it all together and it's all integral. Sometimes they'll get an installation where it just is going to get drilled and anchored into whatever they have existing. So there's all different ways.
Yeah, that's a good question, and an important one too, because it does matter in the overall design, especially in outdoor art. Placement, if you're doing a water feature, if it has to be up on the back behind the or on a stone or whatever, you've got to secure it properly. So very good. But a lot of it is just about balance, like making sure that the weight is properly spread out, I guess is the word. Yep. So all right. Well, you guys are so wonderful. Thank you for our audience and